What's your, "Sir, this is a Wendy's" moment? My wife was doing an interview, and the interviewer asked her how she would handle a situation if there was an elephant in the room. Not being familiar with the phrase, she proceeded to describe in detail all the things she would consider to help get the elephant out of the room. The interviewers allowed her to finish, and she didn't realize it until she told me about it later. Yeah, that seems like a very odd question to be asked during an interview, if it didn't actually have the meaning that it does. I actually work at a Wendy's, and someone tried to use an Arby's coupon. What items, other than drinks, are on both Arby's and Wendy's menu? Like, I can't think of a single Arby's coupon that they would even be able to make at Wendy's. One time, this older dude rushes up to order and slams a coupon on the counter saying, "I want this." I pick it up, and it has menu items for KFC. I ask him, "What exactly would you like to order?" He instantly gets disgruntled with me for not reading his mind, and shakes his finger at the coupon and said, "Well, whatever is on this coupon, obviously." I just look at him for a minute and say, word for word, "Sir, this is McDonald's. I don't know what you want me to do with this KFC coupon." He looks at me dumbfounded, then looks behind me at the menu and around the store, yells, "Ah, crap," like this isn't the first time he's walked into the wrong establishment. He grabs the coupon and storms off. You know, this is kind of similar to those people that call the wrong number and then get mad at that person for not being the person that they're trying to talk to. Former police and emergency dispatcher. So people would call for all sorts of things, like settling an argument over the rules of Monopoly or other board games, answers to crossword puzzles, complaints about the weather, etc. My favorite over the years, the power's out. Can you have the fire department come over and hook up a generator? I need to watch the ball game. Oh, so that's what firefighters do. See, I always thought that firefighters were there to, run into burning buildings and help people who were trapped places, but yeah, I didn't realize that they also ran the power companies. I worked in my tech department of my university's library. Some guy called and asked who he needed to contact to donate his body to the medical school when he died. I was like 20, and I had no idea how to respond, especially since the medical school is on another campus. I explained to him that he needed to contact the medical school, and he told me he already had. I was like, okay, I can't really help you. This is the tech service department of the library. I was on the phone with him for like 35 minutes. Was this guy just like clicking random links around the website and being like, I'm gonna call the first phone number I see? A woman came into our shop demanding to help her fix her car because it was our job to do so. I worked in a pawn shop. I told her that the car repair store was at the corner of the street, and she got the address mixed up. She looked ashamed, and I never saw her again. So with a lot of these, it's like, how do you walk into an establishment, walking past all of the signs and all of the decorations, seeing everything inside of the store, and still not realize that you're not where you think you are? I used to work at a drive-through coffee stand. Two guys came through, clearly very high, asking for cheeseburgers. We explained that this is a coffee stand. We had breakfast sandwiches, but if they wanted cheeseburgers, they'll have to go down the street to Jack in the Box. It took them a solid 5 minutes of us re-explaining this to them before they understood. Another time, it was super early in the morning, working at the same coffee stand. A woman rolls up, and it legit looks like she's sleeping. She orders her coffee and hands me a punch card for a different local coffee stand. I said, "Oh, wrong card." It happens all the time. She looks at the card, looks at me, looks around, and says, Where am I?" And I've just realized neither of these people should have been driving. Yikes. You know, I've heard a lot of crazy stories of people sleepwalking, but how many times do you think it would take of you sleepwalking into your car and start driving around while still asleep before you get your license taken away? I had a guy scream at me over the phone because I told him I can't transfer money from his savings to his checking. Why? I work at a gas station. Well, you can transfer money from his checking into your checking, so I understand why he got it mixed up. This is really weird that this became a meme, because I swear this is true. In about '95, I was driving from New England to Florida for a college spring break trip. Somewhere in South Carolina, we stopped at a Wendy's. Near the hallway to the bathroom, they had a big map of South Carolina, and I said to a person, "Can you tell me where we are?" I was pretty clearly indicating the map, and the lady said, "Honey, you're in a Wendy's." She must have been a mathematician, because she gave the exact truth and it was completely useless. Not exactly what you asked, but I've had a, "Sir, this isn't the '70s" moment. A bloke sent his kid, no older than 14, into our shop I was working at to buy him cigarettes, twice. The first time, I told him he needed ID. About an hour later, he came back with a freaking note. Like that would make any difference. And 10 minutes after that, the guy came in and had a go at me. Like it was my fault that his son wasn't legal. I tried to explain that I would have lost my job while insisting that no one that worked there would have served his son, even with a note. Didn't care, still shouted at me for 15 minutes. Man, it really is weird to think, though, that back in the past decade, there was a time where a guy could say, hey son, why don't you go buy me a pack of cigarettes and just bring it back here? I know people like to say like, oh, we're so much more advanced and so much more civilized these days. But I kind of miss the old days of just very little regulations on a lot of things. Before Auto Shack was forced to rename themselves AutoZone, I worked at a Radio Shack, and somebody tried to exchange spark plugs. He was upset, and was more upset when I told him that we don't sell spark plugs. He got a little nasty until I told him to look around. Now you know why Radio Shack had to make Auto Shack to change their name. They even used the same color and font on their signs. Well, that's kind of a funny turn of events. So Radio Shack tells Auto Shack, hey, you need to change your name, and they're like, okay. And then Radio Shack just dies anyway. I worked at a screen printing shop. We usually did the local baseball league uniforms. A team mom came to our office and complained for several minutes about how bad the uniforms had turned out. When I finally got a chance to speak, I told her that we had been outbid that year, and where she could find the company that did her uniforms. Oh man, that's something that's probably awesome to tell a customer when they come and say, oh man, why did you give me such a crappy product? You always do such a good job. It's because you didn't hire us to do the job. You paid someone else to do it cheaper, and you get what you pay for. I work at a nuclear power plant. A few years ago, the control room emergency phone number got out. We get a call on the emergency line. One of the reactor operators picks it up. Hello, power station emergency line. He hears a click. Then some dude is asking if we want to upgrade our home security system. The reactor operator is like, do you have like microwave or infrared detectors? Oh no, we do. Do you have an option for hand geometry scanners? This goes on for a few minutes, and he's finally like, dude, you called the control room for a nuclear reactor. You don't have anything that could upgrade what we already have. Never call this number again. And hangs up. I was dying laughing. Well, I guess nobody's ever gonna be safe from getting their car warranty extended. One time I was out with my friends at night, and I was really high. We stopped in to get some pizza at a place that sold by the slice, and always had a heated rack full of slices at the front counter. I got my slice and went to pay for it, and they refused my cash. So I took out my debit card and said I can pay on debit, and they refused that too. Then I heard it loud and clear. I'm telling you again, you can have the pizza for free. We're closing. So to anybody that works at one of these gas stations, what is the best time to just show up and get free food? Because I've heard lots of stories of people just showing up right around closing time and then getting a bunch of free donuts or something, so maybe I should try that. I used to work for a politician. We had an ice cream shop next door. Every day, especially in good weather, people would march into my office and get annoyed I wasn't serving ice cream. The doors were right next to each other. Some people came in and pretended they did it on purpose. I gave all the nice people pens or pins or things. See, if I was in this situation, I would just buy a big freezer and then just start selling like ice cream sandwiches or something to people that come in. I mean, hey, you already get the foot traffic, you're just leeching off of their marketing. I worked at a resort where the nearby mountain was so large that it had an issue with almost having its own weather system going on. It would be a clear day, but the mountain wouldn't be visible and it would be surrounded by clouds. People would ask the staff when the mountain would come out. I just work here, dude. I wouldn't be working here if I could control the weather surroundings of a mountain. So I go snowboarding a lot, and I do like to mess with the employees there sometimes, be like, hey, can you make it stop snowing, please? Not at Wendy's, but Lowe's. A guy called the pro desk and asked if he could order a pizza. I told him we're a home improvement store, and he said, but I'm hungry. Well, in that case, I'll contact the CEO and ask him to change the company because Bob wants a pizza. Oh, well, thank you very much. I look forward to trying Lowe's pizza. I worked at a video game store in the late PS2 and early 360 era. An older lady comes in, looking kind of like a hippie/homeschool mom, and she asks for a good game for kids? I offer Lego Star Wars. She says, no, something with more reading. Before I could answer, she follows up with, how about something educational? I explained that I don't think that there were very many educational titles on the PS2, and that would be more of a PC situation. How about something that will teach them old world skills, like shoemaking? I don't think she's too familiar with the video game industry. Maybe she should try a bookstore instead. I used to work at a drive-thru at a Starbucks, and I shall never forget Karen Target. I say, hello, welcome to Starbucks. Your total is $6.66. She says, what? Target should not be giving out devil numbers to people. I thought this was a family store. I say, ma'am, it's your drink plus tax. Well, it goes against my Christian beliefs. I need to speak to Target about this. I say, ma'am, this Starbucks is not associated with... I tried, but she just kept yelling at me. My shift supervisor was amazing. Maybe you could have solved the problem by being like, hey, why don't we just add some more things to the order so we can change the number, or you could just pay extra. Do you want me to just make it $6.67 instead? I used to work in a CD store in the mall. One day a customer walked in and asked where the guitar strings were. I let them know we didn't sell guitar strings, but the music store at the other end of town did. The customer then said, wait, isn't this insert local music store name? To which I responded, no, this is insert local CD store name. The customer then walked out of the store. looked up at the sign, walked back in and said, "Huh, I guess you're right," and left. I was so confused. Did they think I was lying to them about the name of my place of employment, or that I had no idea where I was? Retail is weird. Well, at least it's nicer when they just kind of accept what you're telling them, and they're not somebody who's just like, I'm gonna complain until the world forms into my own reality. One time after I finished my meal at a Wendy's, I of course wanted some ice cream. I walk up to the counter and ask, and the counter lady says, "Sorry, what is it you want?" I have this back and forth a few times before I realized I was asking for a McFlurry and not a Frosty. You know, this story is very cliche and a bit boring, but it matches the title perfectly, so I'll leave it in. A customer came up to me and asked for some haddock. I was like, "Sure, how much?" And she was like, "Enough for 2, so like half pound, would you say?" I was like, "For 2 people, you probably want a pound." Then she talked about how her boyfriend was abusive, and she hated him, and living for herself now, and she's found God and peace, and she won't let another man ruin her, and that she has friends she could ask out who will treat her better. And I'm like, cool, here's your haddock. So maybe in simpler ways of explaining it is just like, hey, could I get enough for 2? Actually, you know what? I hate the other person. Just get enough for 1. When I worked in a daycare during drop-off one morning, this mom decided to rant about how she's a lesbian and is leaving her husband for another woman. I was very confused by that conversation. Well, hey, when you really got something on your mind, the next person that comes across your path is gonna hear about it. I worked at a California famous burger chain with very few menu items. Probably In-N-Out. Guy rolls through the drive-thru and starts ordering like it's a McDonald's. Amused, I just let him go on until he stopped mid-sentence. Oh crap. At this point I basically suggested an order that was similar to the one he requested. He said, well, sure, thank you. We had a good laugh at the window, and it pretty much made my day. Customer service can be great sometimes. Wow, that final line almost seems blasphemous based on how much I hear everyone else talking about retail. I guess I get them pretty regularly. I work for a commercial fire suppression company. We're the ones who inspect sprinklers and alarm systems, fire extinguishers, hydrants, etc. yearly to make sure they're up to code. Any legal operating business has to have yearly inspections on these systems. Sometimes you can slide by with not getting them done every year, but if the fire marshal shows up for a visit, you're busted. So I work in the office, and it's my job to call our customers to let them know their inspections are due. These are people who know they need the inspections done, and are already customers of ours. Still, maybe it's something in my voice, but like 6 times out of 10 I get hung up on because people think that I'm trying to sell them my service. I've had to call people back several times to try and let them know that I am not a telemarketer, and that even if they chose not to use our service this year, their system will be soon out of code. I've had to start limiting myself to 3 callbacks because I can't keep wasting my time with these people. Yeah, I think people are just so used to getting spam calls these days that anytime they answer and it's somebody they don't recognize, it's just immediately like, oh, I'm not talking to this person. I mean, there have been quite a few times where it's like I pick up the phone expecting to hang up immediately, but they kind of keep me online where I'm like, do I know what this is about? Is this not just some random cold call? I went to pick up my McDonald's order that I ordered on the app. The lady that worked there said, "Are you here to pick up your Starbucks?" I was confused. It was McDonald's. Well, I wasn't expecting one where you have to walk in and tell the employee, "Sir, this is a Wendy's." I worked the 7th circle of hell for a few years, aka the Walmart service desk. A woman tossed an armful of clothes on the desk, slammed down a receipt and said, "I have a receipt for all of this, so don't try to worm out and give me the clearance price." I pick up the receipt, and after a quick look, I tell her I can't use it. She begins a tirade about how I will take the clothes back, I will give her every single penny she paid, and she will be telling corporate about how she was treated. I wait for her to run out of steam, and when she finally stops, I say, "I would be more than happy to refund you if I worked at Kmart, which is where this receipt and merchandise is from." She opened and closed her mouth, snatched the receipt from my hand, starts to say something, then stops. She snatches everything off the counter, calls me a B, then storms off. As I'm helping the next customer in line, she flounces back with the manager, complaining about me. The guy I'm helping turns to the manager and says, "If you give this woman any type of compensation for her horrible behavior toward your employee, I will be calling your district manager, who happens to be my brother." The manager asked what happened, and the man told him. The manager had my back, for the first and only time in my whole career with them, and it was nice to see her flounce out still pissed. Man, this is just that Lord of the Rings meme of like, "You have no power here, Karen." It's the Karen hierarchy battle at Walmart. Working at GameStation in the UK, I had a customer argue with me and all my similarly geeky colleagues that a Mario game for the Xbox 360 existed, and we were all wrong and hiding it from her. Well, if it does exist, Microsoft has some questions to answer. Happened today, just a few hours ago. I work at a bank, and I take a lot of calls. So this girl called in, and she was younger. She asked for her balance, and I gave it to her. No big deal. Then she asked, "I got a question. It's not about banking or anything, but are you gay?" Honestly, nothing could have prepared me for this question. I stayed silent for a bit before chuckling, and for some reason I said, "Yeah, sure. Now is there anything else I can help you with?" Ma'am, this is a bank. I don't know what to say to that. I guess I could throw in my own relevant story to the end of this one. So, you guys know how I have that YouTube Analyze channel? I came out with that big project of the list of demonetized words. And so there are a lot of people that see me as like the expert on everything that is demonetized. But I get the most bizarre emails and comments, people just asking me questions. But my all-time favorite was somebody was like, "If I accidentally said a swear word, is that okay?" Like with no other context whatsoever. It's just some random person emailing me, asking me if it's okay that they swore. And I'm just like, man, I know what you're asking, but I'm not a confession booth, okay? But anyway, that's all for a Monday video. Hope you have a good week, and happy daylight savings.